Okay, so let's take a little test first. And so you might want to get out a piece of paper so that you can actually take this scale and see how you score, because this can be really informative and really help you to figure out your style. And I'll talk afterwards about why it's so important to know what your style is and what your partner's style is. Okay, so here are the rules on the sexual attitude scale. These statements are going to reflect different attitudes about sex. For each, you're going to select the response that indicates how much you agree or disagree with the statement. Some items refer to a specific sexual relationship, whereas others refer to general attitudes and beliefs about sex. Whenever possible, answer the questions with your current partner in mind. If you're not currently dating anyone, answer the questions with your most recent partner in mind. If you've never had a sexual relationship, answer in terms of what you think your responses would most likely be. So again, remember I talked about at the beginning of class about how important it is to formulate your values and things like that. So this is one of those scales that helps you to really think about things that maybe you hadn't thought about before that'll help you to determine your values. So here's the scale that you're going to use. 1 means strongly disagree, 5 means strongly agree, 3 is neutral. You can use any of those 5 numbers on each of these items. Okay, so number 1, my partner and I have the right physical chemistry between us. 2, I feel that my partner and I were meant for each other. 3, my partner and I really understand each other. 4, my partner fits my ideal standards of physical beauty or handsomeness. 5, I believe what my partner doesn't know about me won't hurt him or her. 6, I have sometimes had to keep my partner from finding out about my other partners. 7, my partner would get upset if he or she knew of some of the things I've done with other people. 8, I enjoy playing the game of love with my partner and a number of other partners. 9, our love is the best kind because it grew out of a long friendship. 10, our friendship merged gradually into love over time. 11, our love is really a deep friendship, not a mysterious mystical emotion. 12, our love relationship is the most satisfying because it developed from a good friendship. 13, a main consideration in choosing my partner was how he or she would reflect on my family. 14, an important factor in choosing my partner was whether or not he or she would be a good parent. 15, one consideration in choosing my partner was how he or she would reflect on my career. 14, before getting very involved with my partner, I tried to figure out how compatible his or her hereditary background would be with mine in case we ever had children. 17, when my partner doesn't pay attention to me, I feel sick all over. 18, since I've been in love with my partner, I've had trouble concentrating on anything else. 19, I cannot relax if I suspect that my partner is with someone else. 20, if my partner ignores me for a while, I sometimes do stupid things to try and get his or her attention back. 21, I would rather suffer myself than let my partner suffer. 22, I cannot be happy unless I place my partner's happiness before my own. 23, I am usually willing to sacrifice my own wishes to let my partner achieve his or hers. 14, I would endure all things for the sake of my partner. Okay, so I went kind of quick. Hopefully you can, go backwards if you need to. But what you're going to do is sum up your ratings for each group. So items 1 through 4 are the Eros group. So you'll add up the scores that you gave for the first 4 questions. Then you'll do 5 through 8, and that'll give you your Ludus score. 9 through 12 will give you your Storga score. 13 through 16 will give you your Pragma score. 17 through 20 will give you your Mania score. And 21 through 24 will give you your Agape score. So you can pause me while you add up. Okay, so hopefully you have your scores. And okay, so I tried to pick pictures that sort of depict the love styles. So like Eros, I picked a nice picture off of a romance novel because it's very romantic love. There's chemistry and there's passion in erotic love. In ludus or ludic love, that's playing love. So this is the type of love where the person doesn't really want to get too involved, thinks that, hey, we were just talking and I was just talking to this other person too, and, hey, I never made a commitment, that kind of thing. In Storge, the assumption is that my romantic partner will be my best friend. So it's called the friend love. And then Pragma is very logical love, subject to contract, will you be my wife? Mania is a very emotional love, very dependent love, kind of clingy. That's why I picked a picture of a very clingy person. And then agape love is selfless love, the kind of love oftentimes you have between a parent and a child, the parent for the child. Agape love, where you sacrifice, self-sacrificing love. The higher your score is on one of these categories, the more your behaviors indicate that love style. It's really common to have more than one love style, so you might have scored high in two. I score really high in Storge and Pragma, and that explains a lot. I come by it honestly. My grandparents got married in the Depression, and my grandfather's proposal was, two can live as cheaply as one, and that swept my grandma off of her feet. My parents got married at the Justice of the Peace because, why waste money on a wedding? And my husband and I got married because he was being transferred. He was in the Coast Guard and he was going to be transferred to another state. And I wanted to go with him, and I didn't want to have to pay out-of-state tuition. So I think we fall into the Pragma for sure. And then definitely my second highest is Storge, that my husband should be my best friend, and almost to the exclusion of female friends, the way all the other women I know have a bunch of female friends. So it's kind of, I guess, kind of bad. I should have more friends. But the thing is, on these love styles, is that there are factors that predict which kind of love style you might have. For example, ludic lovers oftentimes had insecure attachments to their parents when they were infants. And so they, as adults, have more difficulty forming secure attachments with romantic partners as well. Manic lovers also had insecure attachments with their parents when they were infants more often, but it's a different kind of insecurity. It's one where they couldn't really, they didn't have their needs being adequately satisfied by their parents, and so they may be overly dependent. If you have a manic lover who's like just desperately clingy and needs to be reassured all the time, is paired up with a ludic lover who's a game player and doesn't care whether the other person's needs are necessarily being met, you can imagine how unhealthy that relationship might be. Or if you have an agape lover who's got a selfless approach to love being paired up with a ludic lover who has a game playing attitude towards it, you can imagine how unhealthy that could be. So it's kind of important to know what your basic style is, and then sort of look at, maybe take the scale from the perspective of one of your romantic partners that maybe it didn't go well in the end with, and try and answer through their eyes, and see if it's possible that maybe your love styles really didn't match, that maybe you were too devoted and they weren't really the sort of person who wanted to be devoted to, or maybe you have like this erotic approach that's much more romantic and about feeling swept away and those kinds of things, and they have a much more pragmatic approach, and so your needs weren't being met. A lot of times it goes down to just not being a good match, and it's not like a person can really change this orientation that they have towards how they see love. This is sort of part of our upbringing, part of our history, and so it's really hard to change your love style. What you can do is maybe come to appreciate your partner's love style and start to realize that they've chosen you and that this is their approach, and then maybe you can give them a little room, they can give you a little room for not necessarily having the exact same style. So that's my little 30 years of marriage piece of advice. Okay, so now you've started a relationship with somebody. Maybe it's the person sitting next to you on the bus and you just met them, or maybe it's somebody who you've started to get to know and you're wondering, how much stuff should I say about myself? Is it too early? Is it Too scary? What is it? Um, this little triangle is going to show us like how much stuff we share or what kind of stuff we share with people at different levels of commitment in that relationship. And so the stuff that's on the top would be in a relationship that's very shallow and just starting, and the stuff that's on the bottom would be a deeper relationship that has a lot more commitment to it. So at the beginning, we share biographical data, age, sex, you know, if we have kids, things like that. Some people actually consider whether they have kids or not to be something deeper. So whatever you consider to be sort of superficial things that maybe could be looked up on your Facebook page, might be what you consider biographical data. Some people won't reveal their age to anyone. So, I mean, it varies from person to person. Superficial preferences is usually the next level of detail, and it includes things like your preferences in style of clothes or food or music. And, think about times where you've revealed, I'm going to go back to music. I know I mentioned it a second ago, but this can be one of those hot button issues where you realize, oh my gosh, we don't see eye to eye. How can you not like the thing I like? Or how can you like that horrible music that's horrible? I hate that music. I thought we liked each other, right? It's like, this can be one of those moments where you're sort of shocked to find out you don't like fish? What? I can't tell you how many of my friends have been just like betrayed when they find out I don't like fish. And they're like, what? How can a person not like fish? I'm like, how can this matter to you? But, these kinds of things can be sort of like, I thought I knew you, right? Or I thought we were similar. So superficial preferences tend to come after biographical data. And then, goals and aspirations. This is one of those things where if you start to say your goals and aspirations out loud and people say anything negative, it can be really painful or harmful to your strivings. And so sometimes we don't want to say these things to people who we don't know very well or who we don't trust very well. When you first meet somebody, you might not want to tell them that, what, I know we're meeting while we're working on our AAs, but the truth is I want to go on and get a PhD or a medical degree. And, that it might feel like if I don't know you well enough, you might not realize that this is actually a valid goal for me, or like that. I don't want to hear your input yet. I don't know you that well, right? I remember when we were getting ready to have my kids, each of my children, we would float ideas for names when we were still not sure. We would say, well, we're kind of thinking about this or this, because people always want to know what you're going to name your kids. So, well, we're thinking about this or this. And people would always have something negative. Somebody would have something negative to say about whatever name we were floating. Once we decided on a name, we're like, nobody gets to hear this till the baby comes, because you know what? I don't want to hear your feedback about this. I mean, once I and my beloved have picked a name, we may have told our parents or somebody who we trusted that we're like, okay, this is the name we've decided on. We know that they're not going to try and undermine our decision, then we'd tell them. But if we didn't know them well enough, we're like, you don't get to hear till the baby comes along, because I really don't want your feedback. And that's what these goals and aspirations are sort of like, right? You don't want to hear people's opinions on your goals and aspirations when you don't really trust them well enough yet. Even deeper would be your beliefs and convictions. I mean, a lot of times we don't want to share our religious beliefs or our spiritual beliefs or philosophical or political beliefs because we don't want to get into that conversation. I don't know you well enough, right? I'm not sure what you're going to say. If you find out that I voted for insert candidate here in the last election, you might reject me. And so I just don't want to reveal that yet until I know you better. So we save that kind of stuff for once we know. Now, for some people, religion, for example, might be up there in biographical data because they're like, I don't even want to get to know you if you would judge me for that, right? So they'll put it up in biographical data. But a lot of times, these kinds of really deep things, we save for people who we know, and also there's this old saying that there are certain things that you don't talk about in polite company. Polite company is a code word for people you don't know that well. And the list is money, politics, and religion. You're not supposed to talk about those things with people you don't know that well. And so that's kind of represented here in this pyramid, right? Things that are deeply personal, like, things that you fear, fantasies that you've had, desires, past experiences that might be, embarrassing or that you're worried that people will pity you for, or something you just don't want to deal with people that you don't know that well, you save those for people who you trust and who you know you're safe with. And then finally, our last level is, this basic inner concept, like how I actually see myself. This is, inner self concept. You might not have even really truly shared it with yourself yet, like how you really honestly see yourself. So imagine you're not going to just be running around telling people, sometimes I really think I'm a fraud and people are going to figure it out. And you don't usually say stuff like that to other people. You barely let it enter your own consciousness, right? So these kinds of things, we definitely keep to ourselves and rarely want to talk about. So you can kind of see how, the less confidential the information, the more you can reveal it early. And then as a person, sort of, I don't know, it's almost like we passed each other's tests. And when you haven't rejected me for that, well, then I can give, maybe as we grow, then I'm starting to trust you, that you're not going to be rejecting me for things that I tell you about myself. And so we can go deeper and deeper. And that's how we get really good friends, is by giving little bits of information, checking the reaction, and then either withholding or moving more deeply into the relationship. So the most confidential stuff is revealed much later in the relationship. Okay. So I think it's time for a break, and we'll come back and talk about how to effectively communicate.